Make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and even earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since I discovered Spotify for Podcasters, it's taken Ranching Reboot to a whole new level. I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started today.
This episode is brought to you by Kia's first three-row all-electric SUV, the Kia EV9, with available all-wheel drive and seating for up to 7 adults, with a 0 to 60 speed that thrills you 1 minute, and available reclining lounge seats that unwind you the next. Visit kia.com/EV9 to learn more. Ask your Kia dealer for availability. No system, no matter how advanced, can compensate for all driver error and or driving conditions. Always drive safely.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you all enjoy the holidays. This is the Ranching Reboot podcast, and I am your host, Brian Alexander. You can find me on social media as Red Hills Rancher. This is episode 147, the first episode of 2024. Starting with the last episode I released in 2023, Ranching Reboot is now available in video formats on Spotify, and I'm working on getting the entire 3 years worth of back catalog of podcasts onto YouTube and bringing current releases to YouTube as well in 2024. I wanted to thank all of my subscribers on Spotify and patrons on Patreon for making 2023 possible, and I'm really looking forward to growing in 2024 with all of you. If you'd like to help keep Ranching Reboot on the air for another year or more, head on over to www.patreon.com/RedHillsRancher and show your support, or just click the links in the show notes. If you noticed in the last episode the random ad breaks, Spotify calls them smart ad breaks, and I don't have any control over what they play or when they play it. So if you want to listen to Ranching Reboot without interruptions or advertisements, please consider subscribing on Spotify or becoming one of my many patrons on patreon.com/RedHillsRancher. Patrons and subscribers don't have to listen to ads. They get an ad-free feed just for them. My guest today is Amy Hay, a dedicated rancher with an inspiring journey from vegetarian to carnivore. Amy is currently based in British Columbia and comes with a rich experience working with satellite communications equipment for maritime military purposes. But life had other plans. After a chance meeting with her husband-to-be in a bar in France, Amy found herself drawn to the world of ranching. In a comedic twist of fate, she left the world of boats and oceans to raise cows, something she never envisioned. Despite various hardships, including a near foreclosure crisis, her passion and knack for direct marketing helped save her farm. Today, not only does Amy run a thriving regenerative beef ranch, she also assists other farmers in selling their produce directly to consumers. A champion for healthy food alternatives and a nurturing force in the farming community, Amy continues to inspire with her story. All right, well, stick around. Here we go. Well, Amy, hey, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm just fantastic. If I could get a couple other things off my plate, I'd be even better. But hopefully by the time this comes out, they'll be off my plate and I won't be worried about them anymore. So why don't you get us kicked off here and give us kind of the short elevator speech about who you are and where you're at, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Oh, that is so multifaceted. I don't even know where to start. We are first generation ranchers, and I met my husband in a bar in the south of France. That's the short story. He was a client. We worked on boats, and in this conversation, it was, one day I want to raise cows. I want to leave the ocean and I want to have a ranch and raise cows. And I was like, sure, I can do that. And I joke that I could have stayed in Scotland and married a farmer, and I'd met this glamorous yachty in the south of France, and I'm still married to a friggin' farmer.
You threw a lot at me right there. Okay.
Yeah, that's what is so multifaceted. You can pick something out.
Um, so you're from Scotland. What were you doing in the south of France with boats?
So I'm an I'm an engineer. I design satellite communication equipment for oil rigs and ships, maritime, military. There's some things I can't talk about. And my husband was chief engineer on a big privately owned yacht. And that's how we met. I was installing the satellite communications equipment on the boat he worked on. And when we went for a drink, that's when he said, I want to raise cows.
Okay. I got to hear that story. So, how did you get from having drinks with a guy you just met in the south of France saying, "Hey, let's raise cows"?
Uh huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so we obviously became more than friends. And we left the ocean and came ashore, but we still were working in the maritime field. I'm trying to give you the cliff notes. So that took us to China. We lived in China for 2 years, building boats for an American market. And then somebody got pregnant, and we decided to leave China. And I'm from Scotland. He is from New Zealand. So we picked Canada because it's halfway between. It was that's where we're gonna move, and, we did, and, for a little while, we still worked with boats. He got contracted to a shipyard that was building them, and I worked for an OEM, that was designing the satellite equipment for said boats or for all kinds of boats. And we have 3 young kids, and, there was this one Christmas when my eldest was 7 or 8, and the eye on the prize was always, "We are gonna ranch. We are going to find some land. We're gonna leave the ocean. We are going to raise grass-fed, grass-finished beef for a consumer market. This is what we wanna do. People need to know where their food comes from." And this was something we would speak about, a little bit of a pipe dream. Everyone's going, You guys are insane. It'll never happen." But this one Christmas, my son, he crawled up onto Scott's lap. The shipyard had shut down for Christmas, so it was shut down for 2 weeks. And he just said something that just hit him in, like, the feels, and it was like, "You're a much nicer dada when you're not at work." And it was just like, "Oh, like, that is just so." And it was like, "We can't keep on doing this." Like, I was traveling with work. I think he worked out that he was a single parent for 3 months of the year because I was in Houston, and I was in New Orleans, and I was in California, and I was in Europe, and I was in the Far East, and it was just, yeah, this isn't working. So it was like, we put an end to that. We, gave it all up. We moved 5 hours away, and we raised beef. So yeah, I told you it was very multifaceted.
Okay. So, I have a little experience with shipyards.
Mhm.
I was in the Navy for 8.5 years, and you stay in the Navy long enough, on a boat long enough, that boat goes to the shipyards. And as a
Mhm.
sailor, the shipyards are the absolute least favorite place in the entire world for your boat to be because it's in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
You
Dry docker, yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, it's really weird to see a destroyer in dry dock, much less an aircraft carrier, which I haven't seen, but, you know, the destroyer in dry dock was wild enough that it's just for people out there in podcast land, the shipyard is the worst place you could ever be because there's no parking. You have to park a million miles away, walk 2 hours to get to the boat. It's totally crap. I mean, you're walking through like the densest, worst, dirtiest industrial area possible. There's forklifts running around, there's people in hard hats and safety vests. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. And then you get on the boat and half your crap is tagged out and doesn't work because the shipyard's all working on it. And they've got their ventilation everywhere and their power cords strung everywhere. You're tripping on everything. You can't close any freaking doors and you just want to leave. And it's just a miserable damn time.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, how many years did it take from when you guys met and said, "Hey, let's go raise cows together," till you actually had cows?
So we met in 2005 and we bought a 6 acre, I guess, small ranch homestead in 2014. So 9 years, we were still working, but we started seeing if we could do what we wanted to do. And we went to auction. We bought 4 Hereford steers. We kept them over winter. We kept one for ourselves. We butchered them all. And then the other 3, we kind of floated on. At that time, it was just Facebook. Like there was no, this was in 2014. And Facebook groups, local groups to see if anyone wanted to buy an eighth, a quarter, a side, a whole. And they went super fast. I was like, that was kind of easy. Do you think we can really do this? And we did it a few more times. So we leased. So here in BC, I'm in Canada. We have ag status because we had a farm and we actually were doing, even though it was only 6 acres and we were selling beef. If we leased property from somebody else, they then could piggyback onto our farm status and their property tax dropped from like $5,000 a year to like 50 or something, like huge drop. So we didn't have to pay rent for leasing land. They just piggybacked on our farm status. So we leased 2 kind of 10 to 20 acre parcels and we grew our herd up to, I think, 20 at that time. So they would all come home in the winter into like a sacrifice plot and be on hay and haylage. And then in the summers, they would go out to these 10 and 20 acre plots and we would graze them. And we started doing small batch beef. And then when we pulled the plug, from that point, it was a 5-year plan. We thought, right, it's 2014. We have our foothold. It's a 5-year plan to get to where we want to go. And we did it in 2. It was like, nope, pull the plug, we're off. And in 2 years, we bought this place I'm sat in now. And we moved here with 13 head. And now we're processing 20 head a month every month.
Okay.
Only beef, only direct to market. We don't take anything to auction. We don't do pairs. We don't do feeders. It's all direct to market beef.
Okay. Where do you source your steers from?
So when we first moved here, we obviously couldn't, we're just starting. So we started with like 2 head a month and then 4 head a month and then 6. And we kind of grew as much as we could sustain, but we were still building our herd. So here in Canada, and I'm sure it's the same in the States, there's companies that do cattle finance. So the finance is secured on the cattle themselves, not on you or the property. They had never financed anyone who did a direct to consumer product, but they were like, we'll give it a go. So that's how we started building our herd. We looked around for herd dispersals and then the finance company would purchase them. And then when we freeze brand, we branded with our ranch brand, which is this. And then theirs also had to go on, which is like a lazy 2, so that if they ever went to auction, the auctioneer would know that they're not just ours, they belong to the cattle company as well. And then when they're sold as beef, they get paid out and we get the rest. So that's kind of how it works. So while we were building the herd, we had an agreement with another grass-fed producer who was kind of struggling to sell, didn't want to take them to auction. So we would buy them from him, save him auction fees, auction percentages, transport, etc. And then we would process and sell for beef. And then we did that while we built our herd up. And then I think in January 2019 was when we started with our own. I mean, they weren't raised here, but we bought them, brought them here, finished them here. And then now we breed our own.
Very cool. Very cool.
Get out of the trenches of tedious tasks like managing order fulfillment and start growing your business with ShipStation. They'll help increase profitability by automating your workflow with their simple, easy-to-use dashboard. With it, you can pretty much do everything you need to quickly and easily. Update order information, print labels, compare rates, optimize shipments, and even set up automatic delivery notifications. And it doesn't matter where you sell. Amazon, Etsy, eBay, Shopify, ShipStation can integrate pretty much anywhere online. Another great thing about ShipStation? They can help reduce costs with industry-leading discounted rates from some of the biggest mail carriers. You might even be able to get up to 89% off USPS and UPS rates. So, make this year your most profitable one yet. Sign up for your free 30-day trial at ShipStation.com and use the code Spotify. That's ShipStation.com with the code Spotify.
Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of Vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
There were some sticky points in there too, though. Like that. It's so.
Well, tell me about them while I'm sitting here searching for what else to ask.
So, so we wanted to do that. Like, I am super impulsive. Scott's he kind of calms me down. Whereas when I get an idea, we have to go. We need to do this now. This is happening. Hence, the 5-year plan became a 2-year, not the other way around. So, to purchase this place I'm sat in now, we went on a camping holiday, you call it a vacation, almost to the Alberta border. And as we were driving along, we saw this lovely house. It's a log house with a red roof and lots of green pastures. We're like, wow, that's nice. And then as we drove past, it had a for sale sign. It was like, oh, it's for sale. and And we really liked the area. We stopped it's the smallest city in Canada. Like, it's tiny. It's got a population of 700, but it's a city. And we stopped for a coffee and it was lovely. And we're like, we kind of like this here. So we went and we did our thing. We did our vacation and we came home and we called the realtor and we're like, we kind of would like to go and see that place. So we looked at it, loved it, came back a week later with the kids. They loved it, put in an offer, and we hadn't sold or even finished our place on the coast. So that was in high speed, but we went to a agricultural mortgage lender with a company to remortgage our 6 acres. It had gone up in value, to release equity to buy this ranch. This ranch didn't close for a long time because it was the middle of winter. When we finally settled, it was coming into winter. We said we didn't want to move with cattle in the driving snow and we would move in the spring, and they were fine. For a while, we carried 2 mortgages, and then the property market took this dive, and our place at the coast, which was funding this place, didn't sell. And then when it did sell, it sold at a loss. So that equity we released didn't exist at all because it got So that sold and ended up
When was that?
2019. Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering, because you're talking about British Columbia, and doesn't British Columbia have some of the worst real estate prices in all of Canada?
Super high at the coast, yeah, but it kind of
So did that spike happen after you guys sold?
Yes, it did. Well, it happened before and then it dropped and then it's coming back up again now. But when in that time period, we just chased that market down, and the lender when it finally sold and sold at a loss, there was no equity. Like what we owed, the ranch didn't cover, and they're like, oh no, this isn't going to work. We're super nervous. We're going to foreclose. We're going to stop. And we're like, what? Like, we just moved here with 3 young kids. This is our life. Everything went into this place. And they're like, no, we're going to foreclose on your ranch. And we're like, oh my God. So,
just to be clear, the one you're trying to sell or the one you were trying to buy?
No, this one, the one I'm sat in now, the one that we bought because we were carrying the 2 mortgages. So the one at the coast sold for a loss, but it had gone. So at least we didn't have to pay for the mortgage anymore. I guess we still kind of did because we still owed the bank. So, the only way we could do it was either to sell and go back to boats, but that wasn't what we wanted to do. So it was really ramping up the sell direct market. And, I have quite a background in sales with the, So kind of put all that business knowledge and all that experience, but instead of boats and communication systems, it was beef. So we started 2 a month, 4 a month, 6 a month, to the point where we were doing, I think, at that point, 6 a month every month with an order book booked 6 months in advance. And we're like, okay, this can work. And the bank said, no, we don't trust it. This isn't going to work for us. We're going to continue to foreclose. And we're like, it was so stressful. Like, it takes 12 months to foreclose on a ranch here.
Okay.
It's like 3 months, like a house, like a ranch, because you're providing food and all, but it takes a year to foreclose. So I think we got to 9 months. And at 9 months, I had an order book. We were doing 10 a month. We were doing 50K revenue a month. I had orders booked 5, 6 months in advance. And I went over our local person's head to the head office in Saskatchewan and said, come on, look at this. Like, it's 50K a month every month and has been for the last 9 months. And it's booked out, 6 months in advance. Until eventually they went, okay, we apologize and you're right. And this does work. And it was like literally they halted proceedings at that final hour. But within all that time, looking for help or looking for anyone who to come and help, like, kind of like, help, I need this now. Like, come and help me sell this beef, or give me a plan or something to follow. And there just wasn't anything. And what there was super expensive and scary that I couldn't justify spending that amount of money to save my ranch. It was like, I just have to do this alone. So we did.
Okay. I, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about just a few seconds ago.
I don't know whether I'm allowed to say.
That's I think that's okay though. So you staved off the foreclosure proceeding by getting a full order book.
Hmm.
Now, we were talking before we started the recording. I've talked to several people, over the last couple of years, talking to folks that are running direct to consumer businesses. There's highs and lows, and there's definitely challenges. Like, everybody's experiencing challenges, and it seems like maybe there's parts of the country. I'm sorry, you're in Canada. Parts of North America that are being less successful now at selling grass fed direct to consumer. Seems like you're still doing well. How are you still able to find markets and consumers to buy the product? Because, like, it seems like since you guys had a head start, right? You were already selling before COVID happened. You already had a supply chain and production scheduled before COVID. It seemed like when COVID happened, there are a lot of people that are like, oh, well, I can do this too. And a lot of people wanted to pile into the direct consumer, and even on the grass fed side. Do you think there's maybe some oversaturation? Did we get, are there too many people in the marketplace for the demand right now?
I don't think there is. I mean, a lot of the stats that I see, the most readily available statistics are for the USA because you report everything. And out of the over 2 million farms in the USA, only 8% sell direct to consumer. And it's actually only 7% because that extra 1%, they sell through local intermediaries. They don't sell direct, but they're lumped into the sell direct. So there's only 8% of ranches in the USA that sell direct to consumer. I think the disconnect is connecting the people. Like, there's this massive farm to fork movement that people, the consumer, they want to buy direct. They don't want to buy meat from China anymore, or they don't, they want to support in their country. They don't want to buy even Australian beef, which is amazing beef, but it's not American. Like, they want to find American beef. It's almost like a disconnect between the rancher who's selling it and the guy in a city who wants to buy it. Now, they might be 5 hours apart, they might be 8 hours apart. And I think one of the things that I hear a lot is, but nobody wants to buy my beef. And it's like, well, how far have you tried? It's like, well, I try my local town and I try my neighbors, and there's so many people here who are trying to do it that I can't sell my beef. And it's like, well, have you tried going further afield? Like, we do a 5-hour radius. Like, even to get our beef processed, it's a 10-hour round trip. That's how far we drive to get it processed. And then we make that trip back part of our delivery, so it's not wasted. So then I advertise. When I say advertise, I go into Facebook groups. Like, I don't do paid ads or anything like that. I go into buy and sell groups. I kind of build my customer base with my social media, and people find us. Like, our ranch, we're pretty well known now in BC because we're a regenerative ranch, and we really push regenerative agriculture. We hosted clinics here with Nicole Masters and our local farm advisory board, and we really push soil health. So people kind of like all the, for want of a better word, crunchy people. They really like that. Like they they really like that we really focus on soil health, and we kind of joke that we're soil farmers first. The cows are just our tools.
Well,
And
that's not a joke. That's just reality.
it
It's
is reality.
not everybody understands it, but
No. Yeah. So we just we built a name for ourselves, but like I think people kind of, the things I see that people don't do or people kind of get stuck is that they think nobody wants to know their story. Like, they think I'm a farmer, people don't want to know about that. Whereas I'm like, people do want to know your story. Like, some guy who does a commute and they're driving an hour and a half into the office and they sit in a cubicle, and then they're driving an hour and a half home and they're going into a high-rise apartment and they're watching Yellowstone. They're like, I want that life. And they want to know about your life because your life is so unique to them. You're out there hustling cattle, you're riding the range, you're getting kicked by a bull. Like it's exciting, and it might not be exciting to you because you live it. You're in that bubble. But for people outside the bubble, they want to know all of that. So your story sells. And if you can sell that story into these urban hubs, then your beef will sell, even if you do have to drive 5 hours. I drive 5 hours. I don't ship. There's nothing here. Like we were saying before, I can't get dry ice. I would have to drive 3 hours to ship it. So what's the point? We drop ship it. So we take it to a Walmart car park and we say, I will be there at 4:00 on a Wednesday afternoon. Come and pick up your beef. And people do. And then they pay us.
what do you do if you have a bunch of no-shows at one of those meetups?
So touch wood, it doesn't really happen. So people pay a deposit. So everything is kind of is secured by a deposit. We don't keep credit cards because you can't do that now. Like, everything is done through Square. But if people no show, we contact them and take it next time. And we often make them pay for it there and then. Like, they'll do an e-transfer, or if we don't hear from them, we can break it down and resell. But we don't get left with any inventory because everything is pre-sold.
Okay. What percentage of deposit do you make people put down?
Not a huge amount. For a quarter, it's $120. So what's that percentage? That's like 12%, roughly.
Well, I don't know what you charge for a quarter.
Okay, so a quarter for between is about 1,000 to 1,200. So yeah, it's about 10 to 12%. A side is 200 and a whole is 400, which is about 10%.
Are your carcasses consistent enough you can just say a half or a whole is this much, or are you selling a half and this much a pound?
Yeah, it's hanging weight per pound, and then people can people can choose their cuts. So quarters are pre-cut. We used to always, if you chose bulk, people could choose their cuts regardless. But the amount of cut sheets we do with people for quarters, and they're all identical apart from T-bones or New Yorks and tenderloins, that we've just standardized them. So if people want a quarter, their only choice is T-bones or tenderloins, and then sides, they can have it cut however they want. And the reason we do that, and I'm sure it's the same for everybody, but if we did a set price, our carcass sizes aren't, where the breeds we have, our carcasses are probably 650 to 700. Like, they're not huge. hanging weight. But we don't do yield price because how someone chooses to have it cut can influence that yield. So we do hanging weight, which I'm sure you do as well. And nearly everyone does, not everyone, which blows my mind when people do yield price. But we don't do a set price because it ranges too much.
I mean, if you want to buy steaks from me, they're going to be high. Like if you just want 5 pounds of ribeyes, they're going to be high. Like
Yeah.
twice as high as if you just said, "Hey, put me together a beef box." Like, yeah, I'll put you together a beef box. It's
Yeah.
going to be a bunch of ground, but you're also going to get some great steaks, and your average price is going to be lower than if you just bought the steaks and if you just bought the ground.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. And we don't tend to do ribeyes either, unless someone specifically asks for them. Everything we do is bone in because bones cost money. Like I want them as heavy as possible.
I mean, there's two sides to that. And yes, selling bone is like that's cheap weight to sell. And I get, it's perfectly viable, perfectly okay to do that. I had somebody tell me one time, if you can make somebody buy water and pay the shipping, that's a pretty good way to make money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you can sell, and I think about like all the companies that sell bottled water, like, well, we'll just go bottle up some Dallas, Texas municipal water supply and put that in the bottle and slap a label on it and
They
charge
do.
10x for it.
Exactly. We even put bones in our mini sides is an eighth of a cow, roughly, but we make them up. Like we literally make up everything here. And I put in a 3-pound pack of bones because people want them for bone broth and they want them for soup and they want them for their dogs, but they're they pay a per pound price for that whole pack, which is $12.50 a pound. So they're paying $12.50 a pound for 3 pounds of bones.
I mean, obviously, you have people that keep doing it so people aren't upset about it.
It averages out like it because they've got tenderloins in there, which are $30 a pound, or prime ribs, or you know what. So it does average out, but we people want the bones.
Yeah, and that's, I think that's something a lot of folks overlook is the bones, because there's a lot of value in the bones. I think a
Hmm.
lot of people are just content to pay the fee to have the processor dispose of the bones. And who knows, maybe that processor's got a pet food line out back that, that all the bones that you're paying him to take, he's cooking and he's repackaging and selling for pet treats at stupid markup and laughing at you.
There is a lot of money in pet food. We don't do it, but there's a lot of money in pet food.
Oh, goodness. People will pay 4 times to feed their pet than they will to feed themselves. It's insane the amount of money people will spend on their pet that they won't spend on themselves.
Yep. I have
I
horses. I know.
as good I'm thinking of the 3 dogs we've got upstairs. Tanya's getting ready to take one of them to the vet because he can't, he's having problems with his ears. We put stuff in it and he keeps shaking his ears and smells terrible. So it's time for
Oh,
him to go to the vet.
yeah.
And I think about how much he was free. And I think about how much money I've spent on that dog, and he's probably the most expensive free dog I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. It's like a free horse is never a free horse. A free dog is never a free dog.
Never turn down, probably never accept a free horse.
No.
Well,
Um,
I mean, this one's on me. Like, I went and I got this dog from a friend. He was like, "Hey, I got this dog. He needs another home. Somebody wanted him. I went over. I was like, yeah, I'll take him home. But he's a good dog
nice.
most of the time."
Most of the time, yeah. Something else that I do that people think is weird, but it works is like we really pushed our social media. Like when we started, I didn't even have an Instagram account. Like I just like thought it was picture sharing. Like I had no idea. Like it was Facebook, yes, but Instagram, no. And we had our ranch Facebook account, and we were growing followers and things. And I stumbled across it was like a free masterclass by Founder. And I was like, well, this looks interesting. And I watched this free masterclass. And I was like, oh my God, like really? And Instagram has 3 times the reach of Facebook. And like the growth is exponentially bigger. And at that time, I was like, And the only Instagram account we had was my husband's. So we changed that. I didn't even start a new one. I changed that into the ranch account, which is hilarious now that we're verified that it has the profile picture has to match who owns the account. So even though I run the account and my husband is not good on camera, shall we say, like he doesn't like being there, that the profile picture is him because it has to match the ID because we're a bit verified. Like segue, when we got married, I had to hire a secret photographer that had this massive telescopic lens that went and hid up a mountain just to catch those candid smiles because he doesn't smile. So the so all it was like paparazzi. True story. But anyway, so we I started this to do in Instagram. And I do them both, but then that was when our ranch took off. Like that was when we started doing 12 a month and 15 a month and being sold out for like 10 months. And it was like, wow, it was due to Instagram. Still no running ads, nothing like that. And what I do, or what people think is crazy, but it works, is I don't actually sell. Like I don't actually sell on social media. I don't that you'll never or very rarely see a buy my beef or steaks for sale or anything like that. It's all information. Like if you think of everybody scrolls and everybody is like doing the scroll and having a look at posts and reels, and you get into that kind of almost hypnotic zone, you want to stop that scroll. And no one's gonna, like, if I'm craving ice cream, I'm not gonna stop on something for steak. Or if it's, you know, first thing in the morning and I want coffee and a donut. I don't need donuts, but as an example, I'm not gonna stop for a steak. So the way I stop the scroll, or the way I sell, if you like, is information. So I give great information about beef, and things like do you go to the gym? Did you know that having a 2-ounce steak, or sorry, a 10-ounce steak after a workout is better than a creatine supplement? Or did you know that steaks have more electrolytes than Gatorade? So, before you reach for that chemical crap, have a steak, kind of thing. But it's all kind of information about, if you are a gym goer or a gym rat or a bodybuilder, then eat red meat as opposed to supplements, or things like that. And it's really started people stopping and going, wow, that's kind of interesting. No matter where they are in the world, if we have a follower in Texas, it's still something that makes them look. And that's kind of how I sell, if you like. Like I don't sell, I'm giving information, and people kind of log on and sign up. And at that point, they're kind of a warm lead and they're hooked into my conveyor belt.
Well, you're selling without selling,
Yes. Yeah.
because you're giving away information and education. And that was something that was kind of on my mind earlier, is there's an education bottleneck between us and the typical consumer.
Yep.
And we can throw around words like grass-fed and regenerative. Great. We know what they mean, right? We have a very good common shared understanding of what regenerative agriculture is, and what soil health is, and what animal health should be. We get that. There's 340 odd million Americans that have no clue.
Yeah.
They believe what is written on the label, what the guy on the TV tells them, or I guess that's it. Like they believe what they're told. They believe what they're told. They buy what they're told to buy by the person in the box or the shiny ad in the magazine. They listen to things like, these fake meat companies come on and list, their 53 unpronounceable ingredients that they can't make without. but people will overlook a natural, healthy, sustainable protein source
Yep.
because of education. So how do we swim upstream in that river and maybe counter some of that misinformation or disinformation or information that's being withheld from the public?
Training, like I say a lot on our page, like especially when we get angry comments from people about beef and stuff, and I'm like, you, the consumer, have the power. If you demand that stores shop more local or have more local alternatives and better produce, then you, the consumer, drives the market. And I think they kind of forget that, like they really do. But education is key. Like I got so, I got really, am I allowed to say pissed off? I got really pissed off. I don't, peeved, mad at everything. Would like my whole feed was full with fake meat and plant-based this and plant-based that. And I'm like, why am I seeing all this? Like I'm a rancher. I'm a carnivore. I don't even eat anything green. Like I I'm 100% carnivore for reasons. And why am I being targeted by vegan this and vegan that? And I got so mad. I actually called Canada Beef and said, "What the F are you doing?" And the lady put me on and I left a message with their creative director, I think it was, and he did call me back, and I'm like, "Look, I am a rancher, I eat beef, and I see nothing." And he goes, "Well, we do have this ad campaign, and we do have this campaign." I'm like, "Where? I don't see anything." Like, you would think that I'm your ideal customer. I need to see your stuff. Nothing. And he was a bit he ummed and ahed. I don't think anything happened, but that was how mad I got. And then I started my own podcast called Respect the Beef. And I haven't done it for a while, but this was back in 2021, I think. But I just got so mad at Canada Beef because I felt they were doing nothing. Like surely them and the cattlemen are the ones that should be fighting for us.
Okay, so that's a fair point. You're not seeing ads for Canada beef in Canada. You're seeing a lot of fake meat and other crap. Okay. Sometimes it's the opposite here in the States. Like, now I don't take any like beef magazine or any of that stuff. I don't subscribe to them. Every once in a while copies show up. It just happens. Why in beef magazine that's produced with funding from the NCBA, why are there ads for the beef checkoff in beef magazine telling us how great beef is? I mean,
Yeah.
to some extent, that's kind of like you're trying to preach to the choir. It's like, where's the market you're selling in? Are you just running these ads in our industry publications to show you're doing something? Like,
Yeah.
no, go to the vegans. Like, go run ads in vegan publications. Please do that. Like,
Yes.
that would be a good use of checkoff dollars or Beef Canada dollars. Please do that.
Yeah.
Don't market grass-fed beef to me. That is a waste of advertising dollars. Go sell it to somebody else that's not already consuming the product.
I am a former vegetarian. I'm former. I now I run a beef ranch.
Okay,
Former.
we've got to get into that the vegetarian that's now a carnivore, but I got to go recycle some coffee real quick, so I will be right back.
It sounds good.
Hey, so just before the break, you dropped a bomb on me that you were a vegetarian for a while. When was
Uh,
that?
a long time ago, like when I was late teens, early 20s kind of thing.
So before you met your husband.
Before I met my husband. It was even then it was for the reasons like I maybe wasn't a very good vegetarian because like if my dad shot a pheasant, I would eat a pheasant because it had a good life. It was flying in the sky, bang bang, it's all on my plate. I'm all good. But I wouldn't eat chicken from the store, or I would because I thought had an awful life, and I wouldn't, so it was. It was just in my very young, misconstrued brain, I thought I was doing something for those animals by not eating them, and I've been educated since then. But that was my reasoning many, many moons ago. Like, I'm old.
Well, that's perfectly valid and fair considering probably where you grew up. I mean, without I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say you kinda grew up more in town and not really attached to
No,
any sort of farming roots and didn't really
no.
and you just saw what you and you just heard what you saw in the media about animal cruelty and confined animal feeding operations, and you said, "I don't wanna be a part of that. I don't wanna support that system," and that's why you chose to be vegetarian. Am I reading that
Pretty
right?
pretty much. But I'm from very rural Scotland. Like, our nearest town was a ferry ride away. Like,
Okay.
farm, a very big farm, but that was when I was very young. Like, I guess when I was we still live super rural, like, very rural Scotland, but if you went to the store, the chicken was still in plastic cellophane wrappers, you know what I mean? Like, and it was and yes, I mean, we did see like, I remember I signed up, I used all my pocket money to sign up to WWF, the World Wildlife whatever, and rescue birds from being shipped in tennis ball thing. You know, like, all this stuff, like, all my pocket money went on stuff like that, like, yeah. Because I did believe the media, and I did believe that all these animals are being mistreated and I shouldn't eat them.
Well,
But I've seen the light.
let's be perfectly fair and honest. The current commodity production system for beef, chicken, and pork in North America has some pretty structural issues.
Mhm.
And for all the vegans that say, I don't eat meat because I'm against animal cruelty, that's why. Like they have a very valid point. It's not natural what we do with these animals, putting them in confined feeding operations. That's my personal opinion, and anybody that doesn't like it can send me hate mail. Like, there's nothing natural about cattle standing in a feedlot eating corn out of a concrete bunk. Like, you want to see natural? That's cows out eating grass.
Yeah.
Okay, that that doesn't fit your production schedule. It doesn't make money under your system. That's fine. That's what's natural, and that's where those animals are happy. Pigs, when I was in high school, I worked for a neighbor farmer that had some hogs, and this was mid 90s. Like, I worked for them in the middle of the hog crash in the 90s when most of the rest of the independent hog farmers got out and small hog farmers got out. And I remember them talking about like just how absurdly cheap pork bellies and pork futures were there. I think probably like 94, 95, somewhere along there.
Mhm.
And they made the decision right there one day around the lunch table, said, "Well, we'll just get out of hogs. We just won't have any more." But one of my jobs was cleaning out the farrowing house. If you've never done that job, that's not a job you wanna do in July in the Kansas
Oh,
heat.
no.
I almost didn't eat pork for 5 years after that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I can see it.
And I don't really think the environment in big commercial hog houses is much better. Chicken houses aren't any better. Turkey houses aren't any better. Cattle feedlots, they aren't any better. So when the vegans and the animal rights activists don't want to eat meat because cruelty to animals and those animals deserve a better life, those people 100% have a point. I'm not going to say that I support them, but they have a point.
I think they would have more impact on the industry, though, in instead of "I don't eat meat" is "I don't eat that meat." I'm gonna support your meat, but I'm not gonna eat that, you know, like, I think their attentions are in the wrong place. They're focusing on the wrong details.
I agree 100%. And it's also worth mentioning and noting, you know, over the last 4 or 5 years on social media, there's been a lot of vegan and vegetarian influencers
Mhm.
that have started to suffer from some pretty serious health issues.
Mhm.
Now, this anecdotally, without naming names, because I didn't do any research or background on this, because I didn't prepare for this kind of conversation. Um, but I can recall several like famous vegan and vegetarian influencers that have had some pretty serious health problems and have gone back to eating meat. There's one of them that I know of that was like a fairly hardcore vegan that now they went all the way to carnivore.
Yep.
And they did that switch like in a very short span over social media. And the way these people get attacked, they're like, I used to have to eat, all the stack of supplements every day. And this is all, the beans and the tofu and everything else that I ate every day. And now I just eat steak and I feel so much better and I don't have to take any of that stuff. And they get attacked for it.
Yeah.
And I think it circles back to, the education part of it is consumers, I think for the most part, are told, trust us, it's a good product. Just trust us it's a good product and go shop on price and just trust us that it's a good product. Well, the price shopping American consumer has been trained to look for that low price. And you and I both know that when somebody goes to the grocery store and they're buying ground beef at 250 or 390 or 250 or $3 a pound, you can't tell me that rancher made any money.
No. It's crazy. And it's wet age. So as opposed to if you buy from you or me, it's dry age. So when you buy ground from the store that's been wet aged, that's why you get all the water. Like I did a reel on Instagram that I cooked and I got slated for this, but it went viral and I had a lot of support, but I had some that were like, oh my God, the questions and the things. But I had a pound of ground that was the best bag of ground I could buy at the store, but it was from the store. And it was like $6.50 a pound or something. And I had our ground, which at the time was $8 a pound. And I put them both on cast iron pans on my stove and cooked them side by side. And the crap that came out of the other one, I mean, it's just really liquid. And none came out of mine. And then I weighed them at the end. And mine hadn't lost that much weight. The other one had lost a lot of weight, did the math, and it was cheaper to buy mine than it was to buy from the store. And all these people slating me going, your ground is 95-10 and the store ground is 80-20. And I'm like, no, my ground is 80-20. Well, your butcher was lying to you. And I'm like, oh, like it was just ridiculous. Like the people. And I was like, you're missing the point. But a lot of people liked it. More people liked it that didn't. But
I don't know if I saw that post, but I've seen posts like that. And I've done the same experiment here at the house. Cook a pound of my beef next to a pound of store-bought beef. Drain the liquid, weigh what's left in the pan. And there's a huge difference. Huge difference. It was probably it's been over a year since we bought any beef at the grocery store. And I think the last we bought was just some ground that we needed to buy because we didn't, in between locker runs or whatever. I don't even remember. But we ended up with some grocery store ground beef. And it was supposed to be like 1.5 pounds. And it cooked down to just under a pound.
yeah.
How do we cook how do you cook out 30% of the weight? Like what are you buying?
It's insane.
I love the people that say, well, you can't, cows don't marble on grass. Cows don't marble on grass.
But they do.
But they do. They can.
It takes a wee bit longer and breeding. And like we've even moved away from the grass-fed label now. Like on our ranch page, we just call our beef regenerative beef because they eat so much more than grass. Like we plant in our fields, we have sunflowers and brassicas and legumes and vetches and clovers, pea and barley, but in like the grass, like they're not being harvested for peas and barley. And they eat this. So they eat all of that. And so they're not eating more than just grass. And out on range, they're eating leaves and shrubs. I've even found a cow chewing on a moose antler. Like they eat, I guess, for calcium, minerals or something. So I'm like, they do have minerals and they have licks and they have salt. We use C90 salt, and they
Okay.
love it. But we don't say grass fed and finished anymore because they eat so much more than just grass. So like I did a whole, I think about a month on our ranch page, kind of transferring over and educating and saying that that is why. And the other one that I get is, but are you organic? And I'm like, I'm better than her. And I'm like, like for us to, I mean, I know it's different everywhere, but the main reason that we haven't gone for that here in BC is that we would have to rip out every single fence post that we have and put in untreated wood. And until we do that, we cannot be called organic. And it's like, well, I'm not doing that. So I have a whole script already written out to kind of email to people and say, this is why we are not considered organic, but this is why we are the best that you can buy around here.
And there's probably some different things, like different specific things about, what's organic and what you can and can't do to put an organic label on it. The organic label doesn't mean anything anymore. Like
Mm.
it really doesn't. And I would almost go as far as to say that if the government recognizes it and will allow you to put it on a label,
You don't want it.
you probably don't want it anymore. You
No.
probably don't want that. So I I've tried to market beef by saying all natural grass fed raised on native range. And that's not a claim that a whole lot of folks can make.
Hmm.
It's also not a claim that a whole lot of folks are going to make because there's A, not a lot of native range left. B, there's not a lot of people doing grass fed operations. And, well, I couldn't make it work. And maybe that's the reason why nobody else is doing it either. Anyway,
It's time to say goodbye to hold music and say hello to fast customer support with Service Cloud. With trusted AI and data working together, you can skip long wait times and deliver efficient, personalized service right away, all while keeping support costs low and more customers happy. Reimagine your customer support with the #1 AI CRM for service. Learn what's possible at salesforce.com/products/service.
This episode is brought to you by Carnegie Mellon's Tepper School of Business. Want to advance your career or switch fields? An MBA from Carnegie Mellon's Tepper School of Business can help. Earn your degree from a top-ranked business school with a thought-provoking curriculum, one-on-one leadership coaching, support from experienced career counselors, and full-time, online hybrid, and accelerated MBA formats. Join the intelligent future. Visit cmu.edu/Tepper to learn more.
getting through just like trying to pierce the veil of knowledge and get through. I almost hate to call it misinformation because there's no such thing as misinformation. There's just information.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and whether or not it's bullshit information or not, that remains to be seen. But information is just information, and it doesn't it can't necessarily be right or wrong on its own. But there's a lot of information that's been put out that's maybe not necessarily true about beef. And there's some facts that are being misrepresented about beef.
Yeah.
And mostly it's because the people in charge don't want the vast majority of the population asking uncomfortable questions.
Hmm. Diana Rogers is very good at sustainable dish. She is very good at slaying all of that. Like I wish she has a very loud voice and I love her and I follow her religiously. I just wish she was bigger. Like I wish more people did because she really does have the best information that really goes against Monbio, whatever, however you pronounce his name, and all like those vegan influencers or the health recommendations that is it the Lance report that we only eat like this much meat a day, and like she's amazing like that, and the Global Food Justice Alliance, which is also her organization. The information on those pages are amazing. Like I just wish more people would read it.
Yeah. It's getting it in front of people in a format that they'll sit down and take the time to digest it seems like that's becoming harder and harder to do all the time.
Yeah.
it-
People think they know something and then they get very blinkered and they don't want to know that they're wrong. Or even if they're right, they don't want to broaden that. Like they get, this is what I know, this is what I understand, this is the train of thought I'm going to go down, and they don't broaden, which is frustrating.
yeah, for sure. And I was sitting here thinking about how many guys I know that are farmers or ranchers and have been doing it as long as I have, 10, 15 years. And I've never seen them at a coffee shop talk, at a conference, at a seminar, at an expo, anything to try to advance the education. And you go talk to them and it's like, well, I learned how to feed cows at K-State. Okay. What have you learned in the last 15 years?
Mhm.
Well, my salesman told me this, this, and this. Like, oh, okay. So that's why your operation looks the way it does, because you're listening to the salesman and you're not getting out and
Yeah.
and staying current on research. So so I we need to go back to this part where you guys saved the ranch.
Oh,
This
that
is what
part.
you,
I thought you
yeah,
meant the carnivore bit.
this is
The-
what your husband told me, that you saved the ranch direct marketing beef, chicken, and pork that were raised by other people.
So when kinda, I don't know whether I don't know what he said. So we saved the ranch by direct marketing our beef. That was how we saved the ranch until I got them to say this is a business model that works. And here's the proof. Like here's the proof in the past 9 months and orders booked out. And then it was last year, so we'd already saved the ranch by then, but we went through this crazy month in August, and there was pictures going up online with all over of empty shelves, like no one had food, like it was. And Will Harris at White Oak Pastures, he did an amazing thing about, we don't have a food supply issue, we have a distribution issue, and I wholeheartedly agree with that, and I think that's why we saw this. So within 36 hours we sold something like 40 head of as beef. And by the end of August, I was sold out until February, and that was doing 15 head a month. And I was sold out so far in advance that I was worried that I would lose customers, that people would want to buy beef and they wouldn't be able to because I didn't have any for 6 months. So remember I said I was super impulsive and I just I just do stuff. So then I kind of said to Scott on a Friday evening, I said, well, what if we opened up this online platform I've built and offer it to other suppliers to sell their product over our platform? And he was like, yeah, that sounds good. I went, okay, on it. and and I did up a post, and he was like, what are you doing? And I did up like a Canva thing. I posted it on our ranch page saying, looking for producers, chicken, pork, lamb, anything. And the next morning I woke up to voicemails and a mailbox, like emails full, and like things going, meet me for coffee. So went through all of that and kind of started to sell. So there's these companies like Meet Me, which is a Canadian company, meetme.ca, and there's True Local, and they've groomed us. Like they've come to us wanting to buy our beef, but they won't pay the price we need. Like they're only offering farmers and ranchers like $3.50 to $4 a pound hanging weight, which I would make zero money on that. Yet they turn around and sell it for this extortionate price. So I said to all these other suppliers, it was like, I will pay you what you want, like what you need, I will pay. And we'll just take $1 per pound of your weight for the use of our platform. So we did all the delivering, the marketing, the weighing, the packing, everything. And we were able to provide our customer base with lamb and pork and chicken. And we've kept that on. So it's, yeah, that's kind of what I did. And it didn't just save us, it saved lots of people. So it was, like I call it an online platform, but I don't just mean an online store, an online platform being our social media and my landing pages and my website and my email list, and all of that is my online platform, not just the online store where people go and buy stuff. It's everything that's connected. So yeah, I would just put out, I think I put out an email in my newsletter saying, I have 10 lambs for sale, and they went in 26 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of want to ask how you build your email list, but that seems less important than what are some lessons that you would want to pass on to other people that are struggling right now to fulfill direct to consumer sales or
Um,
find direct to consumer customers?
so, I mean, I think you do have to go onto email list for that. So our email list is full of, it's warm. Like if you know the difference between a warm lead and a cold lead, I've never advertised. I've never gone on to Facebook and put out advert and paid a fortune in paid ads to get people to sign up to my newsletter. And then I email them sequences. I've never done that. And I've never bought a mailing list from a gym or from a health food store for that crossover. Like I've never, like our email list is pretty small. It's only 2,000 people, 2,500 or something people on our lists. And that's taken me 5 years to grow. But they are all warm leads. They are all there because they want to be there. They found us or us organically as opposed to me hounding them, if that makes sense. So because I post this information about the health benefits of beef or working out and eating beef or the water usage of cattle, which is misconstrued in the media, all these things that, and people are like, oh, that, I'll check that out. And that's a warm lead. So when I put out an email, so when I say I don't sell on social media, I don't. All my selling is in my email list. And I don't send fluff. I don't do blogging. I don't send anything out other than I have something for sale. Do you want it? And people know that if they wait until they get home from work, the likelihood is it's gone. Like when we do lamb or chicken or pork or something. So people buy straight away. Like I sent an email, I sent a newsletter out. What day is it today? Monday. I sent a newsletter out Saturday at lunchtime, and everyone pays by deposits. And within something like 4 hours, I'd sold 3 head of cattle worth of beef. So that one email generated 15 grand revenue just from, but that email list is warm because people have found us. So and that's telling story. Like, don't discount your story. Like, people want to buy from you.
100%. And you've said that several times, and I don't know if I hit this point earlier, but my friend Hobbs has said this for about 2 years. The people that are going to be successful in ranching and selling beef in the next 5 years are the people that are telling their stories today.
Yeah, I agree. I do. And just because you don't think it's interesting doesn't mean other people don't. Like I don't post as much on our rants page now as I did at the start. Like I maybe only post a couple of times a week just to keep things moving and but we've gone on deliveries and people I have never met, but they know me or they think they know me. They're like, I just want to give you a hug. And I'm like, okay. And and I've never met them, but it's because like our brand, I had knee surgery 2 years ago. And I was in the recovery room after knee surgery, and they ask you all these questions to kind of make sure you're coming out of anesthesia. And the nurse is like, what's your name? And why you're here? And, what do you do for a living? And I said, oh, we raise beef. She goes, oh, and what's your ranch called? And I went, Waikiki Ranch. And she goes, oh my God, I follow you on Instagram. And this is 2.5 hours away. The nurse in the recovery room, like I've been paddle boarding on a lake and I have all in my hat. And I hear these dudes will say, go, I buy your pepperoni. It's the best I've ever had. And I'm like, I don't know them from Adam. But that is the power of branding. And that is the power of your story.
A couple weeks ago, I had somebody come up to me in public and go, you're Red Hills Rancher. I listened to your podcast. I recognize your voice. And I'm just kind of like, hey, wasn't expecting that in a freaking quick trip checkout line.
There you go. Awesome. Yeah.
And I've had to learn rapidly over the last couple of years that stuff happens a lot. Like, I got on TikTok like 3 years ago. I don't post a whole lot on there anymore. I've had people come up to me in random places, be like, "Hey, I follow you on TikTok." I'm like, "Oh shit. I need to do a better job of disguising myself when I go in public."
That too. Mhm.
So what's this platform called that you've been talking about?
It doesn't have I mean, I call it a platform just because it's something I built to help us sell. But I'm trying so hard not to be salesy.
No, go ahead.
Can I tell a story instead? And
Yeah,
then
go ahead.
so, I said I'm a carnivore and I literally, I don't eat vegetables. I follow Dr. Anthony Chaffee's podcast. I don't know if you follow him. He's a doctor and he's a very well known in the carnivore world, and he's kind of cool and he has a massive following. And I was listening to his podcast, and this lady comes on. Her name is Maggie. She's 82. She's been a carnivore her whole life just because she's stubborn and won't eat vegetables. They have a ranch in Alberta and they raise bulls, breeding bulls. And she's on this podcast and she had reached out to quite a few people because she's like, nobody wants to buy beef. No one is eating beef. Everyone is plant-based now. My business is gone. I'm going to have to sell my ranch. You know, I can't afford to feed my cows. Nobody wants to eat meat, where she's 82 and she's amazing. Like, she is amazing. And I'm folding laundry, listening to this going, oh my God, I can help her. Like, this is so wrong. And there is a business there. Remember we said I was super impulsive? So I reached out to Anthony Chaffee. I messaged him not thinking he would respond. And I just said, I can help her. Like, I know I can help her. You know, there is money and I kind of told a bit about our story and about how we sit the ranch. And he got back to me and he put us in touch. And I have started to help more people. Like, I launched this, it's called Sell Beef Direct, to kind of help more farmers and ranchers sell direct. So I reached out to her and said, I will help you. And it's free. I will help you for free. I really I just want you to know that this works. And I worked with her for 6 weeks. And within a week of finishing my program, she sent me a message going, oh my goodness, I thank God for you. They had sold over $10,000 worth of beef in a week. And yeah, she's like, and they're sold out now until February. So it's just building this platform, and anyone can do it. I kind of have a blueprint to help them, but it's telling your story and finding your customer. Like, your customer is not someone who clips coupons and buys that $2 pound from Walmart. They are not your customer. And you don't want to appeal to that customer because they're never going to buy. And you don't want to try and appeal to everyone because that's actually counterintuitive. By trying to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. So you really have to identify who your customer is. And my customer is a gym rat, for want of a better word. Someone who, and these can all be different people. It's not one person who has all of it, but someone who works out and cares about their health. Maybe a mom who wants to give their kids the best they can. Someone who is a health conscious and environmental conscious, and they know about the benefits of beef and grazing cattle have on the soils. Someone who is local conscious, like they understand the benefits of shopping local. Like, if you shop local, 68% of that revenue stays local. Whereas if you shop at a big box store, it's less than 1%. So if you spend $10 with me, $6.80 is going to stay within this and just go around and around and around. And it supports your local economy, stabilizes the local economy so that is my ideal customer. And that's who I speak to. So someone who can only afford $2 a pound ground, that's amazing. You do you, but you're not my customer. So everything I do targets that demographic or those demographics. And that's kind of where I take people, in that you have to not be scared to ask for the price you need. There's no point price matching that. Like if you need to sell ground for $9 a pound, then do it, but target the customer who can buy it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I found that there's a group of customers that really like ground beef with a little bit of liver or heart in it, and they'll pay a whole bunch more for it.
They will, yeah. Our butcher does not like doing that for us because they have to do a different run. Like we've done it a few times, but he doesn't like adding the organs because then he has to switch the plates and do a run and then clean the machine and switch the plates and bring it back for someone else. Like he does do it normally when they're quieter, but he's not a huge fan of it. But customers are a huge fan of it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, last time I sent something to Locker, I didn't get anywhere near enough Primal Blend made because it sold. Like, I got rid of it within like 2 days, and I didn't even have to advertise. Like, it was just gone instantly. So maybe I missed the boat on that one. But I guess that's a freebie nugget for anybody out there. Is there's a market for Primal Blend. Like,
Yeah.
don't just give those hearts. Don't just give that heart and liver to the butcher and have him throw it away. Like, you can grind that into some ground beef and get a premium back for that.
I did so that whole thing about not selling on Instagram but giving information. We had a whole heap of organs left because we keep all our organs. And I did this Canva post and it was like a bomb explosion going bam, the cheapest way to buy beef. And the next page was organ meat. And it went into, liver. And I gave a recipe for liver pate and kidneys. I'm from the UK. So steak and kidney pie. And then tongue. My kids beg for tongue tacos. Like tongue is amazing. You have to, if you're a little bit squeamish, I did take half a bottle of wine to peel said tongue, but once it was done, it was amazing, and now we have it lots. And then roast heart is like a tenderloin. So I did all this in a Canva post, posted it on my ranch page. Didn't think much of it, but then we sold out of organs. Like it's the power of marketing, whatever. So people are like, I want to try that, and yeah, and now I can't keep liver in at all. Liver goes so fast, and tongue as well. But tongue tacos are amazing. So good.
I've heard that. I'm just not that brave.
Oh yeah, once you have that skin off, it's like it's kind of like a cross rib roast. Like it's super sticky, has that kind of like it breaks down, and it's delicious. You do have to get your head around peeling it like a banana.
Yeah, maybe someday, not today, but maybe some other day.
It's really good.
All right, I got to start moving out of here. So, what's your website?
It's sellbeefdirect.com.
Is that where people need to go to get all your secrets and coaching and
They can. And there's loads of free stuff on there. Like there's free masterclasses, there's free techniques, there's free I try and give away as much for free as I can. Like my mission is to help more and more farmers stop closing and to help more and more farmers sell direct and get their product to the consumers who want to buy it. My Instagram I do free Zoom calls and free lives and Q&A. Like I'm an open book. Like people can contact me and ask me anything. And I just hosted one on Saturday, a free Zoom call for people who were asking me loads of questions yeah. And it was a pitch free, like I said, pitch free Q&A, like ask me anything. And people do.
Very cool. Very cool. What's your Instagram handle?
At Sell Beef Direct.
That's easy.
Yeah. And if you want to see the ranch page and what we do over there with Regenerative Ag and the lovely picture of my husband on the profile picture, it's @YKikahay_ranch. So it's WAIKIKAHEI_ranch.
Yeah, say that one more time really slow.
WAIKIKAHEI_ranch. It's He's from New Zealand, and it's a New Zealand name.
Okay. Okay. I'll have to email you, make sure I have that correct for the show notes.
You never went back to the vegetarian carnivore story.
Oh, no, we didn't get there. So, okay. Tell me how you switched from being a vegetarian as a young lass in Scotland to an ocean roaming British Columbia ranching carnivore.
I have autoimmune disease. I
Okay.
have I'll give you the cliff notes. It was brought on by the birth of my second child. I got awfully infected that they didn't understand. It was an emergency C-section that I never wanted. Um, Horribly infected, they never knew. And it was basically full body septicemia. Like I went into the hospital. They told my husband that I may not last the night. Like it was we had a newborn. She was 6 weeks old and a 2.5-year-old, and I had a temperature of 104 and a heart rate of 140, and I was full body septic. Obviously I survived. I'm good. We're all good, but it never went away, and it's called septic reactive arthritis that then morphed into rheumatoid arthritis, or that's the diagnosis they gave me. And I had a rheumatologist, but the drugs that they put you on, it was awful. Like it's methotrexate, which is actually a chemo drug. So it made my hair fall out and it made me feel nauseous all the time. And I became a bitch. Like it just changed my whole personality. It was like I was awful. Like my husband wasn't happy at all. So I came off it and got shingles and got super ill, and they put me on it again. I'm like, no, this is not for me. This was 12 years ago now, 12 and a bit years ago. So I did some research, as you do, and I went on keto first, and that kind of made me feel better, but I didn't feel at that point it was sustainable, and just didn't sit right. So then I did more research, and I cut out all nightshades, all gluten, all grains from my diet, and that did make me feel a lot better to the point where I could come off my meds. And then I discovered carnivore. So the lion diet more, Michaela Peterson. So she has awful she has awful autoimmune things to the point where she was having, I think, someone will prove me wrong, but she was having hip replacements when she was a teenager and told she would never have kids. And she did the Cambridge debates against Beyond Meat. And she was like, I wouldn't be here if you made me eat vegetables. Like, so it was, I did lion. And my rheumatologist was super supportive, and he now signed me off everything, no meds, no flare ups, back in the lowest health brackets. For health insurance, I don't even have to declare it on my forms anymore. And it's all down to diet. So carnivore and green things aren't good for me. Like they flare it up. So things like broccoli and spinach and things like that and kale and whatever that people say are so good for you. No. So I literally for a long time it was just meat, just ruminant meat, salt and water. And now maybe a little bit more sapient in that I am dairy, eggs, fruit. Some fruits are fine. So like a lot of the things that we could consider a vegetable is actually a fruit. Like a cucumber is a fruit, and peas are fruit, and squash is a fruit, and zucchini is a fruit, things like that. So they're not, because if you think about the animal kingdom, if a cow eats the grass too much, those roots die and they have to grow back. That plants make leaves taste bitter, so animals don't eat them. So like a monkey won't eat, but the fruit is what they want you to eat, so that when you poop and the seeds grow a new plant. So like they want you to eat fruit. So I can eat some fruit, but yeah, I just don't. I full on carnivore, but from being paralyzed, I do triathlons, and I ride and I run and I paddleboard and I ski and I snowboard, and so yeah.
Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing, and I guess podcast listeners will just Put another tick mark on the wall, like, hey, somebody else healed themselves when they stopped eating vegetables and started eating meat.
Exactly. I have a friend who just got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and she asked me, she goes, "Oh, I understand you have this or something similar." And her doctor has put her on a diet that's literally vegetables. And she's like, "I'm on a diet and it makes me feel awful." And I'm like, "But what are you eating?" And she's like, "Well, broccoli and spinach and fish." And I'm, "Well, fish is fine." But and she's like, "But I feel awful and my stomach hurts." I stop with the green stuff.
The rest of that stuff will kill you.
Yeah, and seed oils, get rid of them. But that's another whole other conversation probably. They are the devil.
Seed oils, definitely. Yes. They've almost been banned from our house.
They have been banned from our house. Yeah. I don't buy, like, I put the kids on, they didn't realize, but like in their packed lunches at school, they don't get sandwiches or anything. They get our own jerky and pepperoni and dried fruit and nuts and cheese and maybe some baking, but baking that I've made with organic spelt flour or something. And that's, yeah. And their whole personalities changed. Like they're more balanced and yeah, they're happier.
They're not having problems paying attention and acting out and being crazy at school. Kind of funny how that works when you don't feed them like 6 cups of sugar for breakfast in the morning.
Mm. My youngest is 9 and she asks for steak for breakfast. Or I call them a breakfast burger. It's just a burger with an egg on top, but
Yes.
she a breakfast burger or steak for breakfast.
That's awesome. Sounds like they're on the right, starting off on the right foot, have good health for the rest of their life.
Hmm. Ranching.
All right. We got to end there. So, Amy, I really appreciate your time and make sure everybody check out sellbeefdirect.com and make sure they check you out on Instagram.
Thank you so much. It was fun. Really enjoyable.
Yeah. Had a great time. Y'all have a great week. See ya.